What's up, world? Welcome to the Positive Truth, uplifting and positive news for a more progressive society. Tim, what are we trying to bring?
We're trying to bring awareness, empowerment, inspiration, optimism, and understanding to communities everywhere.
That's what we do. It's Friday. We're bringing you an issue, what the issue is, why it's an issue, facts about it, how you can change it for the better. We do that every Friday. Today we're doing what?
Talking about education funding and how it leads to discrimination.
Absolutely. On Monday and Wednesdays, we do nothing but uplifting and positive news. Find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and YouTube. Audio only on Monday and Wednesday. On Friday, if you want to see Tim's beautiful face, you can check us out on YouTube or our Facebook page at the Positive Truth Podcast. We're also on Instagram at the Positive Truth, Twitter at TPT_podcast.
You forgot one: Instagram, Facebook, Positive Truth Podcast, Twitter, TPT_podcast, Instagram, Positive Truth. Everything's a Positive Truth now after that, right?
Yeah.
Gmail.
Ha! At the Positive Truth at Gmail if you want to talk to us about a topic you would like us to cover or a positive news story you want us to talk about on Monday and Wednesday. Before we get to education funding and how it leads to discrimination, in America, we should say, we have these wonderful T-shirts. Do you want me to talk about them, Tim?
Por favor.
So they are black or gray. They have our logo over the heart. Positive Truth Podcast on the back. They're $20. Basically, all $20 from these T-shirts goes to nonprofit of American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, RAIN for Sexual Assault Prevention, and the Positive Tomorrows OKC for homeless children. All the proceeds from these, $20 worth, goes to those nonprofits. If you don't have $20, just tell a friend,
Add everybody on social media.
Get 10 followers to our Instagram, Twitter, or podcast, Facebook page, and we will send you a T-shirt and donate the money. It's absolutely wonderful. Don't understand why more people haven't done it, but you know.
They'll catch on eventually.
Absolutely. In the meantime, have I covered everything, Tim?
I feel like you have. That was quick too. Proud of you for that one.
I listen to podcasts a lot. Anytime there's like an advertisement thing, I get on my phone, I just go like 15 seconds ahead. Oh, they're still doing advertisements. 15 seconds ahead. 15 seconds ahead. I can just imagine that's what everyone just did with us.
For sure, especially, all our returning listeners. They're like, I'm tired of these T-shirts. I got one already.
We appreciate that.
We do. We really do.
But today the topic is education funding. Why is that topic an issue, Tim?
I mean, it's uneven. It's unfair. I mean, in all across the country. There's just so many issues that we can talk about, to be honest with you, man. Like, I have overcrowding as an issue. Federal funding continues to drop. Schools are shutting down while others are overcrowded. It's terrible.
Our public schools are shutting down. Our private prisons are opening. I mean, schools in America are incredibly unequal, and everyone recognizes that education is the main driver in upward social economic mobility. Yeah. I feel like I have a lot of facts, Tim.
I feel like, let's just jump into them.
Okay.
Let's talk about these facts. Why we...
Facts about the topic. America spends over $500 billion a year on public elementary and secondary education in the United States. It's a national average of $11,841 per student. That's a lot of money. Do you feel like whenever you were in school, you got a $10,000 each year?
Absolutely not. I felt like especially when I was a kid, man, I felt like I was putting in more money than I felt like the teachers were even getting paid. Like, we had to pay for all these school supplies and stuff, and now it's even worse.
Yeah, it's way worse.
Like, I think, man, it was
you think about it this way: if you're in a class with 25 kids and every kid gets basically $11,000. That's over $250,000. Now we know the teachers aren't getting paid that much, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's say the teachers may be getting a third of that. Maybe. Probably not.
Absolutely not. My bad. I got nah. No.
So then you gotta think of like administration. Maybe they're getting some of it. Cost for the building. Cost for like lights, food. At some schools you can see like technology, computers. Other schools, it's just not happening.
Because other schools have 35, 45 kids in a class.
Or they're spending more than $17,000 per student. Why is that, Tim? Why is it so different based on each school district? I have the answer for you.
Yes.
Basically, the United States Constitution leaves the responsibility for public K-12 education with the states.
And that's, yep.
So all three levels of government, federal, state, and local, contribute to education funding. States typically provide a little less than half, which is like 44%. The federal government about 13%, and the rest comes locally. So the local funding comes basically from property taxes. So the problem with that is, not every property costs the same. So if you're in Manhattan, things are a tad more expensive than if you're in the middle of New Mexico. The property tax, it costs a little bit more to live in Manhattan than it does in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, right?
A lot of it, but yeah, we're good.
So basically, if you're in a school in that district, your kid's not going to have hardly as much funding as a school in, like, say you're in Connecticut and you're just living the dream. Your students might get on average, New York, Alaska, and Wyoming, each student gets on average $17,000 per year, while in California, Oklahoma, and Nevada, the students on average get half of that. So on average, like we're in Oklahoma, each student gets around $8,000 per year.
Sounds about right.
It sounds about right as it being the truth, but definitely not being fair. So where you go to school dictates basically everything. So in every state, inequity between wealthier and poorer districts continue to exist because education is paid with the amount of money available in each district, not the amount of money that's equal to adequately teach students. So we fund these school districts not on like, how much does it take for us to teach them properly, but we only have this much money available, so just do what you can with it. So you get some schools where it's like, oh, they got a Chromebook, they got tablets, they got 17 kids in their class, and everything's great. And then you get some places where there's overcrowding, you don't have enough food for all the kids. Kids have to buy their own school supplies. The teachers have to buy their school supplies. And the AC barely works. Do you remember when we were in school, Tim? Those little broken air conditioners?
Oh man, of course. I was a cold kid back in the day, so I didn't mind they were broken. You know, I'm tiny, so everything made me cold.
I thought it was awful. Absolutely awful. You'd try to like sit by the vent so like the air conditioning would come on you if you were like that lucky kid. But you know you're like it's alphabetical, so you have like no control on it.
Yeah, alphabetical ordering back in the day. They used to sit me like in the back of the class away from everybody. I would play around too much, man. Nice little fun fact there.
That's just like the point. Like some schools can't get air conditioning, and some schools have MacBooks. So our system doesn't distribute opportunity equally. Like that's just awful, right?
It's terrible.
So based on where you're born, you get screwed like school-wise?
Depending on where you live, that's the truth.
So like nationally, on average, high poverty districts spend 15.6% less per student than low poverty districts than other non-low poverty districts. I mean, lower spending can irreparably damage a child's future, especially from kids from poor families. A 20% increase in student pure pupil spending each year can lead to like an additional year of completed education, 25% higher earnings, and a 20% point reduction in the incidence of poverty in adulthood, just if you put them in a decent school. We've done studies where it's like, hey, maybe we should just, change schools because we have a school problem. Like, let's do all this. Let's mess with the teachers. Let's change the administrators. Let's do all of this. The only thing that has ever worked in America to make the school system better is putting more money in the school district to adequately teach children. During Brown versus Board education in the 70s and 80s when they were integrating schools, I know I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good, man, because I had like half of those facts already and you just kept it flowing, so this is actually really, really good right now. This is actually one of the funner podcasts for me to listen to, so I'm with it. Go ahead, man.
So during segregation, like when they started integrating the schools, they combined the money from the rich and the poor school districts, so every kid got the same amount of education. It was the prime. Schools were at their absolute best. When it stopped happening, when they stopped integrating schools, what happened? We're more segregated than ever. You get schools with nothing but Mexican kids in America, schools with nothing but white kids, schools where it's just these small boxes of people. And certain schools excelled, certain schools got much, much worse. It's the only thing that's been proven to work. Like, just like if we want to fix schools, we know exactly how to do it. We need to have, like, if you're living in a place with high property taxes, all this money doesn't need to go to your child. It needs to go everywhere. Everywhere. But in America, that's a bad thing because I paid my property taxes for this, so my child should get all of it. We don't share very well here. And then whenever these poor kids don't succeed, it's like, there's just their culture. That's why
discrimination is going on.
This is why it's just their culture. They're immigrants. They don't know how to work hard. All of this.
It's terrible, man. You know, studies have shown that in Black and Latino students, their graduation rate has gone up. They're going to college more. They're becoming more educated. Over the past, let's say, I think it was a decade that I had in here. I don't even feel like going through my notes right now because you covered a lot right now. And it's going up, and now all of a sudden we're cutting. Again, like you said, the states are in control of the funding for education. So certain areas they're cutting funding. Hey, we don't need this much money in this school. We don't need this much money in that school, in this area, in that area. And a lot of these areas are poverty areas where the Latinos, the Black, all the minority kids, every single one of them are living in all these neighborhoods and they're going to these schools. This is where the discrimination is happening. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Institutional racism.
I mean, he had to say it.
It's the truth though. If you're poor in America, it's like we have this idea of it's your fault. You're just not working hard. But you're naturally put at a disadvantage every single day. Right now, there are 13 states in America that are in a class action lawsuit for school funding issues. Arizona, California, Connecticut, Florida, Kansas, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington. 13 states are like, the school funding is absolutely awful. And nothing ever changes. I can say this, we as a podcast and as a people think that the state's responsibility is to ensure that every child in every school district, regardless of whether they've been impoverished, is given an opportunity to graduate from high school and be able to be a full citizen and active in the civil life of their own town, state, and nation. It shouldn't matter. Just because you're born into poverty, you shouldn't be since your parents are poor, you should only be allowed $8,000 a year while the nation's getting $11,000. So if you're in Chicago, there are places in Chicago where the kids are getting $9,000 a year, and you drive 2 miles down the street and it's $12,000 for each student. Because we're so segregated. So school district lines, we're in Oklahoma, right?
They don't make any sense either, by the way.
None. You can be in Oklahoma City and all of a sudden, you're an Oklahoma City resident, but you're in Putnam City, or you're in Edmond, you're in Moore.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. It doesn't make any sense. We've had issues with it in Oklahoma City public schools for a while now because certain schools are getting overpopulated. Like the high school that I coach at, we're about 400 people over capacity in the building, where there's a school, I think 2.2 miles away, where you graduated from, only has 800 kids in the building, where we're pushing 2,000. So, these lines just don't make any sense.
No sense. Speaking of which, since we're whenever I was in school, at that school you were talking about, my first 2 years we had 1,000 kids, and then they weren't meeting requirements. So what did they do?
God.
We literally lost 500 kids.
In 1 year, it was just hey, you can't come back, sorry. Grades aren't up to par, we're not accepting your application. Go ahead and head over to good old school down the street.
So if you just walk in 1 year and it's you can't come here anymore, how many kids dropped out? How many kids just stopped going? Because the schools didn't accept you anymore. That makes no sense.
It's an issue. It's a big issue.
But they did that so they could add more money for each student so they could teach us better, which they weren't very successful at. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right, though. The more money per student,
it just made the other schools worse.
And that's the issue. That's where the discrimination is going on at. You can't just forget about all these other kids. Again, like you said, I'm gonna ask you this question because I'm loving you right now, dude. How passionate you are with this. I'm just dang, JP.
It makes no sense. It's 2017. Why are we still doing this?
So, do you think every state, should still be in charge of funding for education, or should it be federal government, like just overall, hey, we're going to give each state a certain amount. Obviously, the property tax in New York is going to be different than it is in Oklahoma.
Just get rid of the property taxes and just do it all federally. I mean, we spend how much money on the military each year? $640 billion.
It's with the B.
With the B, right? So like, all you would have to do is just like federal government, just make sure every student gets the same amount. It would just subsidize. That's all it would take. Of course, that's never going to happen because we as a people would have to change it. Like, hey, push your congressman to like change this law, this idea.
We have to agree on education.
We have to like go out there and vote and get our congressmen like pass everything. So like there's an Equity and Excellence Commission, and they recommended the nation change its school finance system to exactly what you suggested. New federal funding could be directed towards high poverty areas. The country could decide what the resources are needed to make sure every student gets a good education. Exactly what you just said. And you want to know what happened?
Push it under the table. We don't want to hear this.
They were like their declaration was an urgent national mission to provide equity and excellence in American public schools for everyone. And it was ignored by the Congress. Basically ignored. They listened to it. It was like, Any bills regulated to the report have gone basically nowhere. Instead, advocates of school equality are left like to fight on the state level. They've totally given up. Because it's just no one really knows about this. No one's willing to fight for it.
I wish people would.
Well, people are fighting for it. It's just like not like enough people.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I feel like people should obviously know. There was something going around on social media a couple years ago. It was off of a movie, I believe, but basically talking about how America's not the best anymore. How we're ranked, 17th in reading, 27th in math, and 20th in science. Like, we're not
number one in people in prison.
You give them, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense why we're not trying to become more educated. But at the exact same time, it makes sense to a certain group of people.
But everyone knows education is the number one way out, right?
Exactly.
No one thinks being stupid is a bad thing.
You're absolutely right.
Not being educated, like being stupid is a good thing. Not being educated is bad. Like, that makes no sense.
Man,
we've only had public education since 1850s, and even then it was like, oh, we don't know if we should have this. It was like abolition, getting rid of alcohol in public schools. Like, we should get rid of alcohol, but we don't know if we should have public schools for everyone. And now it's like, hey, we all acknowledge this is the best thing we can do. It's the most preventative measure. We want people in prison. Let's give them a damn good education. We know it's the best way out. We know school as kids, like if you're living in an impoverished area, there's nothing like a good school, a good teacher. And yet we still have a system that's discriminatory against impoverished people.
It's just tough. Like, it's not clear to me what they want, though. You know what I mean? We all understand having an education is a way out. Getting educated is a way out. But them cutting funding makes me feel like, which I know a lot of our listeners agree, it makes us feel like, they want us to go to prison. Because what are they doing?
They want us to do these, like, low-skilled jobs because somebody has to do them.
Because you get paid 75 cents an hour, 30-something cents an hour while you're in prison versus out here in the real world, you have a minimum wage. And minimum. Very minimum. But, hey, I mean, you can't even survive off of the minimum wage that's on the outside. So on the inside, you're working for 35 cents an hour, making mattresses or whatever, certain prisons are doing, and it's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense to me. So to me, it's like, if we don't come together as a whole, as a unit, as a group of people that want to be educated, this problem will never get fixed.
And it'll just keep getting worse.
It's getting worse.
Like, what is the, I'm just going blank, like, I think it's the Gettysburg Address, where it's like, we believe that all men are created equal. Mm-hmm. Like, so if everyone's created equal, shouldn't everyone have an equal chance for an education, right?
I agree.
So we're not doing that.
We have to change that.
Man,
but that's why we're here, JP, because we're talking about it. We're bringing up the conversation to our listeners, and hopefully they can talk about it to somebody else and keep it flowing. That's what we're here for, man.
Basically, until we get equal education for everyone, we're going to have certain problems in this nation we're never going to be able to fix. Like, we have a skill gap. We have these jobs that require higher education. Like, we can't fill. We have to get people from other countries to come in and do. Well, maybe it's because 60% of our kids are getting a worse education than the other 30%. And the top 10, 20 5% are getting a much better education than the other 80%. And so there's just like you're put behind, like you're just too far behind to ever catch up. And then you get in college, like Arizona. They have so little school funding, they have like most of their district has 4-day week classes. So you go Monday through Thursday, you don't do Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you're missing a day of class every day for 12 years. You don't think that puts you behind?
Absolutely.
That's 7 hours of education you lose every single day, every single week for 12 years. And then you get in college and it's like, you need to do this, this, and this. You need to pay for this, this, and this. And if you don't, like, you just like, you better get a tutor because we're not gonna like help you in any way, shape, or form.
I mean, the sad part is too, a lot of us weren't educated going to college, like as in, hey, this is going to cost this much, this is how you need to put this much money away for this, or anything like that. Financially, we weren't prepared whenever a lot of us went. That's why a lot of people leave college in debt without a degree, or if they have a degree, they can't use a degree anyway because, oh, I need to go back to school for another 2 to 3 years to get my master's so I can actually get a job.
And they get to school and they have to do these placement tests, and it's like, oh, you have to take remedial math, you're really stupid. Like, no, maybe I just went to a school district that didn't teach me anything. We went to the same middle school, Tim.
Yes, sir.
You remember 7th grade, we had like 8 math teachers and 7 English teachers?
I do.
Like, oh, that's my fault? As a student, that's my fault?
You know, being at 12, 13, 14 years old, that has nothing to do with this. Maybe at the time, like, we took it a little bit more serious if they called us stupid or something, but now as an adult, we're struggling. We're failing our kids. They failed us a little bit. I mean, I know we're doing what we do now, but we're failing our kids by not investing enough money into these kids. And this topic has to be talked about in more than one place. You guys just can't listen about this and expect things to get fixed.
If you think we're lying about any of this, it's actually worse. You should look it up yourself.
It's terrible. It's gone, like, since 2007, it's just went completely downhill. Like, it's not even close. Financially, how much money we're putting into these schools. We're cutting funding all over the place. There's like 3 elementary schools in the south side that closed down. Where do these kids have to go? They're going to these other elementary schools.
Well, they're getting crammed in the...
It's ridiculous. Right now at US Grant, I have a friend that's a teacher there. He has, I think, 45 kids in his class. He's a first-year teacher. Half of his kids do not speak English. By 2025, 30% of students in the United States will be Latinos, Hispanics, people that literally are coming from Mexico, coming from Argentina, wherever they're coming from that speak Spanish, and they have to come to the United States and learn English. A lot of these schools cannot afford to teach these kids English because we're cutting funding. So now they're in a history class where they're learning this whole entire lesson in English, but they don't even understand English. So what are they supposed to do with them? We're supposed to just push them under the rug?
We're supposed to build a wall and keep them out.
Exactly.
There's no sarcasm.
It's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense because we're going to put, how much was the wall going to cost? Estimated like $18 million or something ridiculous like that. We're willing to put money into build a wall, but we won't put that money into educating our kids so we can have more scientists. There's a commercial right now that has Drew Brees, Serena Williams, LeBron James, basically talking about we don't need another LeBron James, we don't need another Drew Brees, we don't need another Serena Williams, we need scientists, we need engineers, etc. To me, it made me so angry because you're not giving these kids an option really. A lot of these kids feel like you have to rap, you have to play basketball, you have to run track, you have to get some kind of athletic or academic scholarship, and there's only a few of these kids that are getting those academic scholarships to get to college. So those that feel like they're not good at sports, those that feel like, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't rap, I can't sing, like I don't have any talent, they get pushed under the rug because we don't have any other ways out. That's what it feels like to them, and it's terrible. And school funding is the number one issue in my eyes at this point, especially listening to all the facts that you spilled. I mean, there's research that shows, hey, putting more money into these kids proves that they're going to have higher test scores. Higher test scores. They're going to college and they're graduating because we put more money into them.
It's the only thing that's ever been proven effective to improve education in America.
Say that
more
again,
money.
please. Please say that again. It's the only thing. The only thing.
That's why integration worked, because they had to combine the school district money from each side, and each student got the exact same amount. So whenever you put black kids and white kids in a class, or women and transsexual, or gay and queer, it didn't matter. All the kids learned at the exact same rate because they had the exact same opportunity. It didn't matter.
You're absolutely right. I mean,
but we don't want that in America. We like discrimination, and then we like blaming it on the people that are getting discriminated against.
Man, I saw a quote earlier, and not a quote, but it was like It said a strong education equals a strong community, which equals a strong economy. It made perfect sense to me. Like, hey, let's educate these kids. We're complaining about our economy and how messed up it is right now. We have so many issues, but we don't want to educate our kids. In order to get out of this funk, let me say funk, we have to invest money. We have to talk to our congressman. We have to talk to our representative. We have to push education. We have to push more money into our education system. It's as simple as that. That's the only thing that's going to work.
And when we do, we'll be in a better place. And if we don't, it'll just be more of the same.
I don't like the same.
I don't like the same either.
I get bored easy, man, you know? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think we covered this, Tim.
You covered it for sure. I enjoyed it though, for sure. This is actually probably my favorite episode. You low-key like got passionate for a second. I was like, time out. Wait a minute. So shout out to JP right there, guys.
We got a positive quote?
Yeah, before we do, can you let everybody know where they can find us again?
Again. You can find us at our local congressman's house, emailing them about, paying more money to each student.
While we're in their house?
While we're in their house, absolutely. You can find us at a little bit of humility and compassion, where if you're in one of these school districts that has a lot of money and you drive 10 miles down the street and you go to a school district that doesn't, you think this might be a problem and this isn't fair. And this may be a world where we don't have areas like this at all because everyone gets the same level of education. Might be a good thing, so I will be willing to share a little bit of compassion and sympathy there, a little bit of empathy, some inspiration, some awareness, empowerment, optimism, understanding.
All right, guys, let me finish you guys off with this quote. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it.
So basically, if you're in a school district and they can only pay you $8,000 per student, you have to work twice as hard to get where those other kids are.
Don't forget that either.
There you go. On that note, we're out.
Stay positive.